A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Tracy Strauss. She is the VP of Marketing at Cylance. Tracy, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Logan. Thanks for having me today.
It is my pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for this interview. We're going to be talking about some specific strategies marketers can keep in mind as they set up their new annual goals. I know a lot of folks are going through that practice right now, and I know you have some very tangible things to share with our listeners today. Before we do that, Tracy, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and what you and your team at Cylance are up to these days.
Great. So my background, I've been in marketing my entire career and really focused on demand generation. I came up through the agency side of things, and then once I crossed over to the client side, I've worked for several different technology companies, again, really focusing on building pipeline for the sales team. And so here at Cylance, that focus is no different. I head up the corporate marketing team here, where we handle events, the campaigns, and also our digital marketing strategies, ultimately all mapping back to building pipeline for our sales teams and for the organization.
I love it. And Cylance, you guys are in the cybersecurity space, correct?
We are. We are in the cybersecurity space, helping protect all endpoints across the globe for all organizations.
Awesome. Yeah, taking a look at what you guys do and seeing cybersecurity and AI in the same sentence, I'm like, those are two topics you just can't seem to get away from these days, and seeing those covered in one sentence in what you guys do. Tracy, we're going to jump in today to a few strategies I know you wanted to share. And as you're looking at, what are you going to focus on for your demand generation efforts, especially as you look longer term, maybe for your next year's worth of planning? I know you mentioned as we were going back and forth before this interview that starting with some definition and some key goals, creating a short list is really where we should start. Tell us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, so when you're going into planning and building out a strategy on how to build pipeline for your organization, you really need to focus in on some key goals and align with your organization. So first of all, you have to understand what your organization's trying to accomplish, what segments you're trying to target, what your revenue targets are, and then how much pipeline you actually need to build. And then really focus in on how you're going to accomplish that for the organization. So you can do that through all of the different marketing mechanisms, but you really should be, taking account of what's working for your organization and then mapping your budget and your marketing dollars to that. And so, there are a million things we can do as marketers. Everybody's a marketer in this day and age, I've come to find, and, everybody's got great ideas. And there are a lot of great ideas out there, but when you start to get fractured and try and accomplish or try and, tactically execute every single idea, that means that you're not staying very focused on what's really working and what's going to drive the business. And so if you can understand what's working and focus in on the goals and the activities that are really drive and support that particular area of the pipeline, that's where you need to focus your energy. So, it's that whole saying, there's a million things that we could be doing, but what are the 5 to 10 things that we should be doing that are actually going to drive impact? Because, a lot of activity doesn't mean that you're actually driving impact for the organization. So my favorite phrase with my team is activity does not equal impact. Pipeline and impact equals impact.
I love it, man. That is a great way to summarize it there, Tracy. One of the other things I know you mentioned you wanted to talk about, this idea of prioritizing, is being ruthless on your priorities. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts here. Is it lining up one single goal? Is it a short list of goals that other things can roll up to? What have you found to be effective as you start to set your priorities once you have kind of reverse engineered where you want to get to, and now you're prioritizing which activities are going to have the most impact, to borrow your phrase there? What are some of the things you see as effective in this next phase of the process?
It really is coming down to that short list and mapping each one of the activities to a very specific goal. And like I said, with all the different ideas and things that we could be doing that come flying in from the side, and everybody's calling saying, I think we should do this, or I've seen this, and we should definitely invest in this. It's being able to take that idea, measure it, and evaluate it against your goal, and whether you have any data that supports this would be impactful in helping support that goal, or if it's something brand new, and then being able to say no. And saying no is a difficult thing. Nobody likes to say it, and nobody really likes to hear it either. But it's really important. If you're going to be successful, you need to be able to say yes to the right things and no to the others. And the most important part around that, and why it's really important to be very transparent and clear about your priorities and your goals, is it helps then facilitate the conversation that says, I'm saying no to this, but this is why. Mm-hmm. And helping people understand why you're doing some things and not others, and how it's going to drive impact to the organization, really helps then, people understand the reason that we can't do everything. Mm-hmm. Resources are limited, budgets are limited, so doing everything is just not an option. So really staying focused becomes a critical component to success.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going back to your point earlier, there's no shortage of good ideas oftentimes, especially if you have a great team full of creative, forward-thinking folks, but there is a shortage of time to execute on those great ideas, right? So tell me a little bit more about your thoughts around success metrics. It seems a logical next step for a lot of folks once they have that short list of goals to look at, okay, what KPIs are we going to set up to see if we are on track for the next 6 months, the next 12 months. Any thoughts there on successful strategies, or where you've seen other marketing teams go awry with their KPIs?
Yeah, obviously the ultimate KPI is the pipeline build, right? But being very specific around what does success look like for this type of campaign, because success metrics are not going to be the same for different types of activities. So being very clear before you ever start something, how you're going to measure it and what you anticipate and what you need to get out of it that says, yes, this was successful, or no, this was not. So whether that's, building your database and just bringing in net new leads, net new contacts against your key accounts into your database, maybe that's the goal. Maybe it's a conversion strategy, and it's something that you need to help convert people over to the inside sales team to start making those phone calls because you've engaged them enough. So again, really defining and having the ability to track those KPIs against each different type of campaign becomes, again, a critical component to understanding what is successful and what's not, and where you should double down and where you shouldn't. And I think it's, mm-hmm. again, really important to be very clear about what success looks like for each type of campaign before you invest, and help provide and set that expectation with your team, with the executive team. So if they're using the same benchmark of success or same KPIs for each type of campaign, inevitably something that was maybe very successful, but was a smaller type of event, maybe it was an executive event where you had a very small set of people and some customers there that were trying to accelerate deals, mm-hmm. but they were looking for net new leads from that. Well, that's not the goal. So again, being very specific about what success looks like for each type of activity or campaign or event, mm-hmm. and then applying the right success metrics and tracking those the right way to demonstrate and show, yes, this is working for us. This was a good decision, or, we tested this and it didn't work as well as we would like, and we're not going to invest in this further.
We can't name names, but today's growth story is about $1 billion tech security firm. Even though this is an incredibly successful company, they've struggled with cross-selling among their top global clients through an underperforming inside sales team. So how did they solve for this? They implemented a multi-tactic program that included display, email, direct mail, global inside sales, and an enablement team. This program guaranteed pipeline conversions and resulted in a 257% increase in MQL to SQL conversion and an almost 200% increase in closed business. So how did this security firm get these kind of jaw-dropping results? The answer is simple. MRP Prolitics. MRP Prolitics is an insights-powered account-based marketing platform with streaming predictive analytics baked into its core. Integrating multi-channel ABM execution on these insights, MRP Prolitics triggers display, email, direct mail, and global inside sales in real time, helping the largest marketing departments in the world deliver the right message to their customers at just the right time. So can MRP Prolitics get similar results for you? Probably. Find out by visiting mrpfd.com or click the link in the episode description of this interview. All right, let's get back to the show.
Do you think that being not on the same page on those success metrics, you mentioned kind of aligning where those success metrics are in your mind between marketing and the executive level? Is that also maybe one of the biggest disconnects between sales and marketing is not being aligned on what those success metrics look like? I imagine it goes in multiple directions outside of the marketing function, right? In being on the same page as far as what success looks like?
Oh, absolutely. It goes across the board, like you said, in multiple directions. And so, if you're managing up and trying to help your executive team understand where you're investing your dollars and why, again, if they're measuring against a very set amount of KPIs that don't necessarily measure to certain things, it's going to become really difficult to justify your investment. And similarly, it's important for, say, sales teams. Sales teams want to do a lot of different things, in their regions, or they want to go to a lot of different events, and they think it's going to be life-changing for them. And this is going to be the one that's going to build my pipeline. But, they need to help understand that it's important for them to bring the data back to us so we can then truly measure what success looks like. Them going to those events and calling us up and saying, that was the best event. It felt really great. Well, no offense, I don't care about your feelings. I want to know the data so then we can go back and say, hey, this drove this much ROI. Yeah. We're going to you can continue to invest in these types of activities. And so again, it really needs to be that data focus and putting it all into that central system that becomes that source of truth that says, yes, this was a good investment, or no, this was not.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point to getting your sales team thinking in the same way about the data that you are as a marketing leader. What are some of the things you've done, Tracy, to really drive that and get them to make that mental shift? Anything practical that you can share with us there that you've seen either, with the sales and marketing teams there at Cylance or in other positions you've been in?
Well, it's a process. I'll say that. And we're still working on it. We have not perfected it, but I think first and foremost, starting at the top and helping the sales leaders understand the why it's important for their sales teams when they go off to these different events or in a booth or interacting with prospects or, at whatever touch point it is, why it's important for them to come back and put that data in the system. It may seem manual, or really tedious, but why that's important, so they can drive that behavior down. It's also important, and what we've done is we've continued to communicate that why out to the sales reps as well. So when they come back to us and say, hey, we want to do this again, and we're like, well, we don't have any data that shows that it was very successful for you. So, just really reinforcing that behavior. Unfortunately, I don't have a silver bullet. It's been something I've encountered, throughout my career in different organizations. And I think it's just a function of, continuing to partner and help people understand the why it's important.
Yeah, I think those are two very great points there, Tracy. You mentioned getting early buy-in from the sales leaders and then reminding the individual contributors, reminding the sales team of why it's important at that moment when they're asking for something, right? They're feeling good about it. They're wanting to do it again, and then reminding them, okay, maybe it was good, but let's find out if it was. And this is how you're going to help me do that. And I'm going to help you be able to engage in that activity again so that we're on the same page and looking at it through the same lens. So I think those are very great ways to kind of execute on that idea that doesn't necessarily have a silver bullet, as you put it. So Tracy, tell me a little bit more about, as you mentioned, kind of sticking to your guns, sticking to that short list that you develop during the beginning of the year. Where do you find it's best to test and kind of shift throughout the process without, getting too distracted? Anything you can say there about where's that fine line between getting distracted midway through, your execution on your annual goals versus realizing, hey, something's not working. We need to shift the original plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a saying around here, fail fast and move on kind of thing, and, succeed even faster. But, it's easy to get distracted with different shiny, sparkly, marketing trends, if you will. And so it's, I go back to the goals every time, because that's the basis where I evaluate and say, hey, yes, this is a good idea. No, it's not mapping to where we want to get to. But, as a marketing organization, you also need to have the ability to test and learn. I mean, that's just at the core of marketing and, how you continue to get better. Marketing has never been harder. There's never been more technology to throw at it. You've never had, more personalization that's required, persona-based marketing, ABM, all these different types of things. So it's really important to not get distracted by all the jargon and all of the marketing things that you could be doing, and take a look at who your target audience is, who you're trying to get to, understand your buyer and where they live, and understand where you can be successful. And that's going to help you make the right decisions, right? So I'll give some examples. Account-based marketing is, absolutely where people should be. Account-based marketing and persona-based marketing, again, making it a very personal experience. But, do you have the right database to support that? And do you need to invest in technology to help you supplement and build out your database, right? So again, it starts to drive to those right conversations, but that doesn't mean you necessarily need to go out and invest in the biggest account-based marketing platform if you don't have the right database, right? So don't get distracted by the hype. Understand who your buyer is, what your capabilities are, and then start to build that foundation. Foundational marketing still is the basis for all things, right? It starts with your database, understanding your segment, understanding your market. Once you have that, then you can start building out these ongoing strategies to continue to drive them, to get them to engage with you and spark that conversation. But trying to just jump right into the deep end with all of the different trends and the different technology, if you don't know how to use that technology, if you don't have the capability to leverage, the power of it and the measurement of it, then it's not going to be effective for you. And those technologies are fantastic. I've used a ton of them in a very complex marketing stack in different organizations and even here. And it's important to understand who you're going after and what you need, so you can build out and not get distracted by all the other things that you could be doing. And so, it goes back to that foundational piece of things, which it's hard for people. It's hard to go back to the basics sometimes and be very, very focused, but that's what's going to deliver consistent results over and over again.
Yeah. As they say in football, it comes back to blocking and tackling. It comes back to the basics, that you need to have a foundation before you can move to the next level of performance. Well, Tracy, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing some of your thoughts, having been through this annual planning process and getting your arms around your key goals for the next 12 months or whatever the case may be. Tracy, if anybody listening to this would like to stay connected with you, reach out and ask any follow-up questions or learn more about what Cylance is doing, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
I would love to get connected with anyone. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Tracy Strauss on LinkedIn. And if you want to find out more about what Cylance is doing, you can visit us at cylance.com, cylance.com. But would love to have any follow-up questions, or happy to connect with anyone online as well.
I love it. Tracy, thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Logan. It's been a pleasure.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.